feeling to make a difference. Visit uso.org/force to learn how you can be the force behind the forces.
Welcome back to Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the NASA Community College Foundation, on the voice of NASA Community College 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Ray Schwetz, and our guest today is Paul F. Oliveri of Oliveri & Schwartz PC. Now, Paul, you have some nice accolades. You have the highest possible rating on the Martindale-Hubbell Bar Registry of Preeminent Lawyers in the practice areas of motor vehicle law, premises liability law, medical and dental malpractice law, personal injury law. So that sounds pretty impressive, and for the layman, I'm not really sure what that means. So can you tell us a little bit about this?
Sure. Some people have told me, Paul, it is a big deal. So I am
sounds like it.
So I'm proud of it. And Martindale-Hubbell is a Mount Rushmore company in the legal world. They're, a publisher, and they are the source of a lot of legal content. And so at some point, and I don't know when they began doing this, they sent out basically a survey or a poll to every lawyer asking a whole bunch of questions about their fellow lawyers. And by the way, the poll and the survey goes not only to attorneys but also to judges. Oh. And so the judge or the lawyer fills out the survey, and they're asked, who does a good job on this or that, and they specifically ask about particular attorneys and their ethics, their knowledge of the law, their experience, their reliability, and their results on particular areas of law. So the areas that you mentioned are areas that my colleagues and judges in our New York area feel that I've accomplished a better than average job rating. And the rating that I've received is the highest that Martindale-Hubbell offers. They do rank in a couple of different levels, and I've achieved the highest on those. And I'm told that 5% or less of all attorneys will achieve the ranking that I have. So I'm very proud of it, and thank you for mentioning it.
Oh, that's very cool, and I mean that's an amazing feat. Given the nature of the work that you do, it's as you said, it's a relationship based thing, and to know that you're trusted not only by your clients but also by the industry, by your peers, is pretty fantastic. So kudos to you.
Yeah, while my mom was alive, she would often ask me about what I did for a living, and she would become alarmed when she would read something in the newspaper or see something on the news about a lawyer who did something bad and got caught for it. And she would always say, Paul, don't ever get involved in that. And I assured her that I wouldn't, but I also kept her words and her vision in my mind whenever I needed to make a serious business decision. What would Mom say? And okay. I always wanted to make sure that Mom would be proud of me.
That's awesome. Now, you've also done some work with bar associations. So I'd like to hear a little bit about that, because I think to a layperson, to me, a bar association sounds like, all right, that's the group for the lawyers. But okay. I know it's much more than that. So maybe you could go into that a little bit.
Right. So I'm involved with a handful of bar associations, but I'll mention one or two that I think will give you some insight into a bar association. I am an officer of the Nassau Lawyers Association, which is a group comprised of a few hundred. It's a small group, Ray, only a few hundred members. And it is a bar association that has as members attorneys, judges, and legal vendors. So it's a little unusual, and that's why I'm mentioning that one first, because it just popped into my head that is not the typical bar association, perhaps, but it would include, for example, a court reporter company, or perhaps an investigation company, or perhaps a website company, different companies that are involved in the legal world. Rubbing shoulders with judges and rubbing shoulders with attorneys. So that's a organization that I'm an officer of, and I'm proud of it, the Nassau Lawyers Association. And another one that I'm a executive director is the New York State Trial Lawyers Association, and that is comprised of trial lawyers in New York State. So we have thousands of members. And I've come to think of that one, Ray, as my union.
Okay.
I am self-employed. It's my own business, my law firm. And I should just quickly mention that a law firm is a business, and some people don't often think of that. But I think it's worth mentioning because I break the hearts of many people whose cases I need to decline, and I understand their frustration, but I, in those circumstances, need to remind them that I have salaries to pay and I have expenses just like any other business. But getting back to the New York State Trial Lawyers Association, it advocates for our clients to keep the doors of courtrooms open and to assure that the right to a jury by trial is something that we honor and continue. And so because that bar association lobbies in Albany to preserve all of those civil justice rights, I've come to think of that one as kind of my union. And I'll just close with this on the topic of bar associations. One of the main things, I'll say two things that I think a bar association is great at. One, it humanizes all of the members for the fellow members. We get to eat and have a drink with and talk with and sit and listen to a program with a fellow lawyer or with a judge who we will be in front of maybe in a professional capacity, but now the judge gets to know me a little bit as a person and I get to know the judge as a person, and I think at the end of the day that's a good thing for everyone.
Yes.
And another major function of a bar association is continuing legal education. Attorneys in New York State are required to attend lectures or programs for our continuing legal education, and those requirements are pretty stringent. We have to do a certain number of hours each and every year, and bar associations are a great forum for organizing and putting those presentations together. So that's one of the other great things about belonging to a bar association.
You are listening to Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Ray Schwetz, and our guest today is Paul F. Oliveri of Oliveri and Schwartz PC. Now, you also do a lot of networking. How do you choose, what type of networking events you go to? Because I imagine, let me not put words in your mouth. Let me ask you, when you're looking for networking groups, what are you looking for, and how are you marketing yourself?
Right. So some years ago, I looked to network because I wanted to meet as many people in my community as possible who would come to know me as the go-to guy for a personal injury case. And as my time has become a little bit tighter, I haven't done as much of that, to be perfectly frank. But I continue to belong to one group in particular whose main function and main, shall I say, goal is fundraising for charities and organizations here on Long Island and in the New York metropolitan area. But back when I was a little bit more tuned in to the world of networking, it was a conscious decision that I didn't want to advertise on television, and I didn't want to run ads in print media. I just thought it was better to go organic and let people meet me and hopefully like me and think of me when they needed a good injury lawyer.
Well, it makes sense, and that's how we met. So, it definitely works. And I think you're right. I think, so much of what we do today is all relationship-based. It's all who do you trust, and then you want to do business with that person. So
right. I
agree.
Yeah. And when I think of some of the friendships I've made in those organizations, it's fantastic. And I, get phone calls from other lawyers and doctors and people who work in hospitals who think of me when they think of a good injury or medical malpractice lawyer. So it's great.
Now, you achieved the New York's largest reported car crash settlement award in 2016. Can you tell us a bit about that case?
Yeah. That is a case that was able to be settled before we began the trial. And I represented a college student who was working in a lawyer's office, and that lawyer, after the horrific incident, suggested that her family speak to me. Mm-hmm. And she was driving her car on the Long Island Expressway right around the border of Nassau and Queens counties. And she was entering the LIE off of a entrance ramp. And she had looked both ways, so to speak, to see that it was safe to enter the lane, and she did so. And she was simply unaware and had not seen that there was a truck speeding on the LIE. It was not during a rush hour, so it was actually at a time that someone could speed pretty seriously on the LIE. And that truck hit her car with great force, resulting in her fracturing, I dare say, almost every bone in her body. Wow. I exaggerate, but from head to foot, she suffered many, many broken bones. But more seriously, Ray, she suffered a closed head injury. And when she was working at my friend's law office, she had mentioned to him that she was thinking of law as a career. But the closed head injury on that fateful day put an end to that dream. So we were able to settle her case. We had certain limits because of available insurance on the truck and the business that truck was working for. But we were able to settle that case for $2.5 million.
Wow, that's pretty fantastic. Now, we're running a little short on time, so I just want to ask you two things. One is I wanted to ask you if you had to leave our audience with something, what would you want to leave them with?
I would leave them with my mantra, which is that I love my job because I love helping people. I think that mantra might apply to each and every job out there if you can achieve it. And I would leave them with that. Love your job. Excellent. And how can our audience find you? For fun, you can Google Best Brooklyn Injury Lawyer, and recently I come up on top, so we're proud of that. But more seriously, we have a 800 phone number, 1-800-427-9546, or you can visit our website, oliveriandschwartz.com, or shoot us an email. Happy to hear from anyone out there. info@oliveriandschwartz.com. That's info@OLIVERIANDSCHWARTZ.com.
Thank you very much. We'd like to thank you for being our guest today. Thanks for coming into the show today, Paul.
Thank you, Ray. I really appreciate it. I had fun and look forward to working with you in the future.
We want to thank you for being with us. My name is Ray Schwetz, along with Anisha Boston-Hill, your co-host and producers. The creative director of Tower Talk Business Radio is Rudy Breedy. This is an NCC Foundation Business Leaders Council production. Visit ncc.edu/WHPC for more information. Available on iHeartRadio as a podcast on iTunes, Android Podcast, and Spreaker. This has been Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the Nassau Community College Foundation on the voice of Nassau Community College 90.3 WHPC. We'll talk with you next week.